Hi folks, you were Tasseless today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about what I'm seeing across the Western world, and maybe it's my imagination, but see what you think, and I'll look for your comments below. But the issue of jury tampering, and jury tampering in the sense of, well, there's a number of ways it happens, but the most how can I say, egregious way that I've seen is inserting activists into the jury. Now, given that both lawyers on both sides can just say, I don't want this juror, I don't want that juror, or when the jury is being impounded. So to get activists into the jury, you'd have to be pretty confident it would get past the lawyer for the other side. Now, either the lawyer for the other side is already in the pocket of the state, and it's not hard for the state to do that. All lawyers are registered. Now, technically, they're supposed to represent their client and be independent and so on. But a quiet word in their ear saying, "Hey, buddy, you need to do this for us, and if you don't, your license to practice law will be withdrawn. You'll be finished. You'll be washed up." Well, gee, well, why? How can you do that to me? Hey, we can have a dozen frail little tiny women with torn blouses saying you tried to rape them. You'd be finished. We can finish you whenever we want to. So do what the fuck we tell you. So there's that, and particularly where there's a very, very motivated, globalist-controlled Justice Department all over the Western world now. That's very focused on implementing the globalist project and doing whatever is necessary to implement that project. And that includes riding roughshod over due legal process and the rule of law and so on. In fact, the rule of law and due legal process just get the fuck in the way of the globalist project. So, they've got no time for it. They can barely tolerate as it is. I mean, look at Merrick Garland, for goodness sakes. Gee whiz. So this idea that's sort of the main ways I see is to insert activists into one or more into the jury to run interference or to refuse to go along with a verdict that's quite obvious, the innocent verdict, for example. So it's not that hard for them to do. And if you want to sort of get an example, a dramatized version, of course, but an example of how it's done, there's a movie with Alec Baldwin and Demi Moore and or some other actors I can't think of, called The Juror. If you get a moment, there's a few scenes on YouTube that you can look up. So that'll give you an idea as just how these things are architecturally structured. In that instance, it's a criminal getting to a juror to getting them to try and sway the jury verdict, even though the evidence is quite damning against the gangster. But it gives you an example of how it can be done, and how I believe it is done. So that's sort of the other reason is, or the other way, and there are more than just a couple, but is that you get to the judge, and the judge will not allow certain evidence to be heard by the jury, but will allow other evidence, and through those methods they can effectively curate what the jury sees and hears, and thus influence their decision. Now, the judge is meant to be doing that completely impartially. It's called a due legal process. So if evidence is allowed by party A, then an equal weight of rebuttal is allowed by party B. But if the judge can emasculate that, and they often do, certainly in ideological courts, whether it be divorce courts and things like that, it's very ideological. And they're very mindful of this subtext, this unwritten code of law about victims and oppressors or equity outcomes and totem poles of oppression and these sorts of things. So these are also issues that are at play. Now the globalists, of course, are attempting to implement an ideology, and so they rely heavily on ideological type interpretations of the law to get the outcomes they want, whether it be the precedents they want or anything else. So also, like, again, the Federal Attorney General of the United States, simply declares that parents that are concerned about their children being taught, gay, lesbian, 5-year-old children being taught gay, lesbian, sexual literature that parents are concerned about and complain to the school board, will just declare them as terrorists. Same as Twitter, if they want to get rid of people, I think they just declare them as Nazis and so on. So, the definition of the declaration is that well, they're terrorists, they don't deserve legal rights. They're Nazis, they don't deserve legal rights. We do whatever we want to them. And that's very much the game as all across the Western world in the globalist controlled governments. Now, but there's a case recently that I saw, and I won't mention the name of the case and the jurisdiction, but it was a rape trial, and the case was very unusual, very political case in my opinion, where there was no physical evidence of a wrongdoing. There was an allegation, he raped me, and then the claim, no, I didn't. And that went to court. How you get that to court is beyond me. But there was the particular government concern was very motivated politically and ideologically as well. And so, it was a very ideological court, and so they drag this guy in. And the state pursues it, so the state's paying for everything. She gets a free ride, and there's this very well cashed up sort of victim support group. I mean, how she's a victim before there's been any legal decisions beyond me, but anyway, purely on her allegation alone, she's declared a victim by those NGO activist type sectors. And they're putting up all the food and accommodation and moral support to make sure she goes through with the litigation. The government's paying for all her lawyers in effect. So, but the guy's not so unfortunate. He's got to pay everything himself. So he's screwed one way or another. Now it turns out the jury can't reach a decision, and usually typically in case like this, if the jury can't reach a decision in a few days, typically you expect a decision in a few hours. So clearly there's somebody, and it has to be unanimous verdict. Clearly someone's holding out here. Would it surprise you to see that a feminist activist has been inserted into the jury, and somehow everyone knows about it, but no one did anything about it. No one stopped it. No one prevented that from happening. Now, if that is the case, and there's an activist in there, shouldn't the jury be reconstituted or something? Anyway, so somehow the jury can't. But instead of saying, look, the jury can't make a decision, I'm declaring this trial over. If you can't declare the guy guilty, then as far as I'm concerned, he walks free. The only thing against him is an allegation. Nothing more than that. Just an allegation from one person. The fact that ideologically we make her out to be this poor oppressed victim, oppressed by vicious fucking fascist Nazis, that's ideological. It's beside the point. There is only an allegation and nothing more. So if you can't find the guy guilty, then he's not, and he walks free. But instead of that, the judge just kept on sending the jury back. Now take another day, have another day. And it went for several days. And then a very strange thing happened. There's a claim, and I don't know how successfully this has been verified, but this sounds very suspicious, but see what you think. Somehow one of the court orderlies, none of whom are very bright, by the way, somehow one of the court orderlies just happens to knock over a stack of papers, and in that stack of papers happens to be a folder that happens to have a see-through cover, that happens to be something that was downloaded from the internet about false claims of rape that women make. And I mean, wow! I mean, look at the orderly happens to be in it, happens to knock it over, happens to fall out of the folder, happens to have a see-through thing, and he happens to read it, or the court orderly, I don't know, male or female, happens to read it and notices somehow magically manages to notice it's been a downloaded document, not approved in the court evidence. I mean, holy fuck! This has got to be the most switched-on court orderly that has ever existed in the whole universe throughout the entire history of time. And this, of course, this court orderly, what else can they do? They can only report what they saw. That they have to say. So they have to take it to the judge, and the judge, what an egregious, this is fucking egregious. We've got to call a mistrial here and then have another trial. That's what we have to do. So it has to be all gone through again. Now, again, the girl's lawyers are all paid for by the state. It doesn't cost her a penny. All the travel, the accommodation, the food, moral support, all the whole thing, all paid for by the NGO sector. It's not a penny out of her pocket. I assume someone's giving her money to do this as well. I'd be very surprised if that wasn't the case. Can't prove it, but I'd be very surprised if it wasn't. So, and she's certainly not short on food. That's for sure. Now, he has to then go through another trial. The whole thing has to be gone over again in front of another jury. And again, he has to pay the whole lot. I mean, he'll be in debt for gazillions. I mean, the guy's life is utterly ruined, no matter how it turns out now, whether he's crushed financially, or another jury that decides that on the balance of zero evidence he did do it. Fuck me, I don't know. But that to me is just a sequence of too much. There's just too much there that a juror, in spite of knowing full well that they must only rely on the evidence as tendered in court, and the witnesses and any documentary evidence and so on. They must rely on that to reach the decision. Now, you don't have to be a genius to understand that's how it's meant to work. Now, it could be because there was someone holding out, that another juror decided, well, why don't we get more information? But instead of doing that, they should have asked the judge for references or expert witnesses to come in or something like that. But anyway, but my take on is this, that there was an activist inserted in there that refused to agree to the innocent verdict. I would suggest there's 11 innocent, one just refused to go along with it. No, he must have done it. He's a straight white man. He's a Nazi. I reckon there was one of those. I mean, purely guessing. I can't prove it. And that was what prevented a decision or the unanimous verdict that was required in that jurisdiction. So through exasperation, other people may have acted inappropriately. I wouldn't be surprised if the person that refused to do satisfy the one holdout deliberately brought those documents in, and the court orderly knew they were there and accidentally deliberately knocked them over, deliberately the right document was with the clear cover came into view, then accidentally deliberately read it and then took it to the judge. I would say that's a setup. I don't believe that's a random. I mean, just too many randoms there. The court orderly randomly in there, court orderly randomly knocks it over, randomly that special file comes out, randomly sees it, randomly reads it, randomly realizes what it is. I mean, what bullshit, what utter bullshit. But that's what we're being told. But now the girl gets all the free ride again. The state just pays for everything, goes up the whole lot again, assuming they do pursue it, by the way. And if they don't pursue it, then they're in the perfect position of saying, well, he's not innocent. He's not innocent. He actually did do it. We just couldn't prove it. It was too expensive to prove it. So, justice just didn't work. The poor oppressed girl, the raped victim, raped by fascist Nazis, straight white supremacists. The guy just walks free, which shows, just proves we've got to tighten up the legal system so that any time a girl alleges that a guy raped her, we take him out the fucking back and shoot him. Gee whiz, what's all this bullshit about a court case? Look, he's walked free. Hitler has walked free. I would guess that'll allowed to be grandstanding there. Now, on top of that, I would allege anyway, and that the public comments that have been made about this trial, not only through the media but through NGO type activists, all women are rape victims, and a huge proportion of these people that push this propaganda are lesbians. I mean, why? They're the least likely to be raped, or so you'd think. So maybe they dream of it. I don't know. Excuse me. This idea of the law must be changed to produce some sort of equity outcome. And if the evidence isn't sufficient to do it, well, who cares? Get them ideologically. We all know ideologically they're all straight white males, supremacist oppressors. That's all the evidence we fucking need. We don't need physical evidence. We don't need DNA evidence. We don't need proof. Fuck all that. What we need is to ideologically hold these people to account, these evil straight white males to account. And the globalists, of course, will all be cheering this on because it's yet more social division, yet more confidence crushing activity. People lose confidence in the courts. There's women running around. Oh, I'm going to get raped 100 times a day. Oh no, the media told me. I've seen it. And again, it creates this social division and just causes an absolute evaporation of social trust, not only between the genders, but between people interacting with the body politic, with the courts. The idea that there is evidence and accuracy and facts, that all disappears into the ether. And so the wider social cost of this madness is monumental. And yet not a single political figure that I'm aware of, or media figure for that matter, is pushing back against any of this. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.